The Secret of the Indian by Lynne Reid Banks, Chapter 8. A Heart Stops Beating. The suspense was awful, the worst of Omri's life. He watched Matron bending over the still figure in the plaid shirt and chaps. Boone, so real, so very much of a person, and yet so vulnerable that Patrick's hand closing on him in the instant of being swung back through time and space could have squeezed the life out of him. Omri thought what Patrick would feel when he came back if he learned that he had killed Boone, killed him, crushed him to death. Suddenly Omri knew that it was for Patrick's sake more than Boone's in a way that Matron had to breathe life back into that tiny body, as she was now trying to do. Matron, shh! She had stopped giving Boone the kiss of life and begun giving him artificial resuscitation, hands on his ribs, throwing her weight forward and back, panting from the effort she was making. "Is he alive?" whispered Omri. "Yes," she said shortly between pushes. "Just about." "What's wrong? Is he crushed?" "Crushed? Of course not. He's been half suffocated, that's all." She put her ear to his chest again. "Where's his hat?" said Omri suddenly. Matron straightened herself with an exclamation. "His hat?" she said sharply. "What in the world does that matter when his heart stopped?" "His heart stopped?" Omri's own heart nearly did the same. "Then he is dead." "Not if we can... Wait. You could do it. He needs a good thump on the chest to get it going again. I haven't the strength. Come here. Do exactly as I show you. Now watch." Peering at her, he saw her do something with her tiny fingers. "What?" She gave him an exclamation of exasperation. "Are you blind? It's a flicking movement. Flick your finger out from behind your thumb." "Oh, like this? Right. Now do it downward against his chest. No, not so gently. Do it hard. Thump him, man. Thump him," she cried agitatedly. Omri flicked his middle finger hard so that his nail struck against Boone's chest, rocking his body. "Again!" Omri repeated the movement. Matron then pushed his finger out of the way and once more laid her ear against Boone's plaid shirt front. "Ah! Is it? I do believe. I think I'm almost certain. Yes." She raised a beaming, sweat-glossed face. "You've done the trick. Well done. Oh, well done indeed. You've saved him. Now, bring me something warm to wrap him in while I go fix him an injection of heart stimulant. Look, he's beginning to breathe normally. What a relief. I was really afraid he was a goner." Omri, feeling weak with relief, rushed to hack out another square from his shattered sweater, already jagged-hemmed due to all the miniature blankets he'd cut out of it. Matron hurried up the ramp onto the seed tray and into the longhouse. She emerged at once with a hypodermic syringe and an ampoule so small Omri just had to guess it was there. She knelt beside Boone, now warmly covered, and injected straight into his chest. "Now listen, young man. We've saved this one between us, but the emergency cases in there are still in desperate need of expert attention. You really have to secure qualified medical aid." "Omri!" He turned. Little Bear was standing nearby, arms folded. "What happened, Boone?" "He's had an accident." "Accident? Enemy dent head with tomahawk?" No, something else. It's okay. Matron will take care of him." "Good." Little Bear bent down and touched Boone's red hair. Omri felt quite choked up at this tender gesture until the Indian added, "Sometimes I sorry Boone my blood brother." "Little Bear, surely you're not hankering after his scalp?" The Indian fingered the hair regretfully and grunted. "Fine color, like sugar leaf tree. Very bad if other brave get." He gave Boone's head a sharp possessive pat and straightened up. "Dance finish. You take dead braves. Plastic, put in ground." "Little Bear, I can't now. I must go with Emma. Did you see her? She saw you. I have to make sure she helps and doesn't tell." Little Bear looked troubled. "Woman tongue, stay still like falling water, like grass and wind. You go. Keep hand ready to stop mouth of Emma. First put Little Bear back in longhouse with wife, son." "You don't want to be sent back to the village yet." Little Bear, usually so phlegmatic, suddenly twisted his face, threw up his arms, and turned his body first one way, then another. "Very bad. Need be two places same time. Want be here, not leave hurt braves. Need be there with tribe. Very bad. One man heart cut in two." This was more than Omri could cope with. He lifted the 5 Indians, including Little Bear, off the table and deposited them hastily on the seed tray. Bright Stars came running out of the longhouse with her baby in her arms, and Little Bear embraced her. "We'll decide what you should do when I get back," said Omri. He turned to Matron. "Can I leave you?" "In a good cause, yes. Give me an hour." As he came running downstairs, he sensed at once that Emma had gone. He felt bereft, though he didn't entirely blame her. Waiting down here by herself, no doubt she had suddenly been overcome with the feeling that it was all too much for her, that she wanted to run off home to her everyday life, but he couldn't let her go. Of course he couldn't. He grabbed his parka and dashed out of the house. As soon as he turned out of his gate onto Hobble Road, Omri smelled trouble. He saw them halfway down outside the amusement arcade, a whole crowd of them. He couldn't see Emma, but something in the way the skinheads were crowding around, something in their stance, in the sounds that drifted to him along the street, told him that she was there in the midst of them, trapped, that they were taunting her, the same mindless bullying treatment he had from them so often himself. Without his conscious command, his feet drove into a hard run. He didn't stop to think or give himself time to get scared. He just rammed into them head on. A piercing pain blew up like fireworks in his head. He'd completely forgotten his burn. He clutched the place and felt the bandage. And at the same time, the circle bent and broke. Letting him through, he saw the faces, first astounded, then twisting into sniggering laughter. "Cool! If it ain't the old Ayatollah!" Emma was standing erect and defiant, her lip curled in contempt as she faced the tallest of the gang. Omri recognized him instantly. "You're just an ugly bullying creep!" she threw at him. "Slag," he sneered. "Nerd." Then he noticed Omri, his whole face altered. Unwholesomely pale already, it turned the dead color of putty. His jaw went slack as if Omri's own fear had erupted, and were mirrored in his other face. "You," he gasped. "Yeah, me," said Omri, panting, dry-mouthed. There were so many of them. "You lot leave her alone, or else." A concerned jeer rose from the circle. "Look out, lads! Fall on your faces and worship him, or he's liable to start an holy war." But their leader, the big youth who had been going at Emma, glanced furiously around at his mates, and the jeering laughter died. He reached up his grimy fingers and unconsciously caressed his face, across which in a diagonal line were a dozen tiny raw dots. "How you done that?" he muttered, his eyes narrowed as he looked at Omri. "I'd give a lot to know how you done what you done to me." Omri contented himself with a tight little smile. He took Emma by the arm. "Come on, Em, let's go." The tall boy gave a kind of twitch of his shaved head. The circle wavered, then gave way, and let them through, though not without murmurings of puzzlement and rebellion. Just as they came clear, Omri had a thought. He paused and reached into his jeans pocket. He turned casually back. Could they see his heart was pounding? "Oh, by the way," he held out his hand, "I think one of you dropped this." He held up the pen light he'd picked up after the burglar's hasty departure. The tall skinhead reached for it automatically, took hold of it, then suddenly let it go as if it were red hot. It fell to the pavement where it rolled into the gutter. Several of the others made a dive for it. "Leave it!" the leader barked. "Don't touch it, it might blow up in your face." Omri stared at him for a moment. That great, thieving, bullying lout was really afraid of him. It wasn't entirely a good feeling, but it was better than the other way around, which was the way it had always been before. Now all the faces looking at him were pallid and nervous. Take away their gang courage, and they really were a pathetic-looking crew. Omri felt the beginnings of a sneer twisting his own mouth, but it felt ugly, even from inside, so he was glad when Emma tugged his arm. They walked quickly down to the station, leaving a defeated silence behind them. And that is the end of Chapter 8.